Okay, welcome back, everyone, as we continue our Motzi Shabbos marathon, learning Torah to be Mekayim the mitzvah v'dibarta bam lasis nachas ruach liyotzreinu, realizing that it's the best thing that we could be doing with our life. That's what it says. Im lamadata Torah harba al tachzik Torah la'atzmacha ki lekach noitzarta. This is why you were created. And also to remember that it says Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So if we're looking to get the best bang for our buck, if we're looking to do the best possible thing with our time, this is the best possible thing to do with our time. We are holding 4 lines from the top of Ayin Beis. I want to apologize to Mark because I know that he's very incensed that it's such a small Amud. I have to tell you, Mark, I don't choose the Amudim, but that's, what could you do? So the Mishnah said, "Shoichet v'nimtzas treifa." If he shechts and finds it a treifa. So here again, the problem is Amalei Rav Chavivi Michuznal Rav Ashi Shmami na eina l'shchita el lebesayf. It must be that in the shchita process, where we know that we shecht the majority of the 2 simanim, the majority of the veishut and the kana, the majority of the esophagus, the food pipe, and the windpipe, that it's not considered a slaughter until the end. So, kaven the shakat bapursa, once you make a drop of shchita, asra, it becomes forbidden. And if that's the case, idach, when you do the rest, lav the moryeh tavach, it's not, it doesn't belong to the owner. Now, now this is asking in the case of where he shechts in the Azara, because if he shechts in the Azara, it becomes forbidden for benefit too. Right? It wouldn't be a question on the case of treifa, because treifa is not also to benefit. You could sell it to a guy, you could give it to a dog, so that would belong to Abi, and it wouldn't be a kasha. But it would be a kasha on shechting chulin la'azara. So if it becomes forbidden immediately, then by the time Mark finishes the shchita, it's not Abi's anymore. Why would he have to pay daleh v'hei? Amalei Rav Huna b'rei derava kika mechayiv. No. Mark, who says Mark is chayiv to pay the knas of daleh v'hei when he finishes the shchita? Maybe he's chayiv for that initial cut. Amalei Rav Huna b'rei derava kika mechayiv ahu persa, on the initial cut. Says Rav Ashi, that's not true. Amalei Rav Ashi, loy titkei, don't push me aside that way. The pasuk says utfachai, which means kulei bayinan. You need a whole ma'aser shchita v'leka, because as soon as you make the first cut, it's forbidden. Elakasha. It's not shver if you hold ein l'shchita el l'besayf, but it's shver if you hold yesh l'shchita mitchil l'vatzayf. Amalei hachi amar Rav Gamda mishmei derava. You know what Mark did? He was cool. He was a cool cat. Kegain sheshachat miksas simonim b'chutz. He started the shchita outside, so it didn't become aser yet. V'gamran b'fnim, and he finished it inside. So it became simultaneously that he finished the shchita inside, so therefore it was Abi's until he finished the shchita. Ikin namaskila aha. Some teach this conversation at a different angle, starting at a different angle. Starting about the machlokes of whether the shchita process is called shchita from beginning to end or only at the conclusion. Amr Shimon Mishum Rabbi Levi Saba ein l'shchita l'besayf. It's only considered shchita at the end. Rabbi Yochanan yesh l'shchita mitchil v'atzayf. Amalei Rav Chavivi Michuznal Rav Ashi. Lema Kesav Rabbi Yochanan chulun shenishchatu ba'azara lav daraisa. That chulun shenishchatu ba'azara is not disqualified biblically. Why? The Isal Kedai Daraisa, then when Mark made the first cut, it's forbidden, since Rabbi Yochanan holds Yeshin l'shrita mitchila v'atzayv. Mechi shachet le'posa asa. Idach, then when he finished it, why is he chayiv dal v'hei? Lav demara katafa. He's not shechting that which belongs to the master. Amalei Rav Achaber Eidarava Kika Mechayev Nami. So here the Gemara tries that answer. The Rabbi Yochanan holds that he's chayiv for that initial cut. Ahu person. However, Rav Ashi doesn't accept that. Amalei Rav Ashi loy titkei. Don't push me aside that way. You have to do a full shchita in order to be chayiv dal v'hei, because the pasuk says utvachai kula ba'inan, and then you don't have that v'leka, because if you hold yeshin l'shchita mitchila v'atzayv and you hold kula ma'azar as asa d'oraisa, it becomes forbidden right away. Ela kasha. Amalei achiyam Rav Kam the mishmei derava. Mark was more clever than that. He shefted the food pipe and most of the windpipe outside, and he finished it with the majority of the windpipe inside. So at that moment, it becomes Chulum Azar, and simultaneously, he's chayiv dal v'hei while it is still Abis. Now, as Mark continues his dastardly ways, he's not even in the basement tonight. After tonight, he's going to be down in the basement. Actually, he's going to get on the phone and speak to Marshall. Where the heck were you? As we welcome in Naftali Javelin. Naftali, welcome. It's good to have you. As we are holding at the new Mishnah on Ayin Beis Amud Beis. New Mishnah. Ayin Beis Amud Beis. It's a special gift from Hashem tonight that it's not such long blot, because it's a little challenging for me tonight. So here, of course, Mark is the villain. That's a given. Ganav al Pishnayim. Mark stole from Abi on the testimony of Mel and Shelley. V'tovach ha'machar al piyan. And then he slaughtered or sold it by their seisa. And Mel and Shelley say it happened in Rosh Chodesh Shvat in Bela Kinwood. V'nimsu zaymimin. But Aaron and Dr. Guy say, what are you talking about? You were with us in Atlantic City that day. You weren't in Bela Kinwood. So what's the din? Shelley and Mel have to pay kasher zomam lasais lachiv. So they plotted to take away from Mark Dalavahei, so they have to pay Mark Dalavahei. Mishal min hakol. Now the plot thickens. Ganav al Pishnayim. Mel and Shelley say that Mark stole from Amy. The Tavach HaMachar al Pishnayim. And Nachman and Yitz say that he slaughtered it or sold it. And then Elu ve'elu nimtzu zaymin. Mel and Shelley said it happened Rosh Chodesh Shvat, it was stolen, and Yitz and Nachman said that on Bei Shvat it was sold or slaughtered, and Aaron and Dr. Guy say that the whole week I was with the quartet with Mel and Shelley, Nachman and Yitz in Atlantic City. So Harishainim, Mel and Shelley, who want to be Mechayiv Mark Kefil, Mishalm Tashlum Kefil. V'achraynim and Nachman and Yitz, who want to be Mechayiv Dalam V'hei, Mishalm and Gimel, they pay the 3, right? 3 for a shar and 2 for a seh. Nimtzu achraynim nimzaynim. If Shelley and Mel, their testimony was not blemished. Aaron and Dr. Guy just say that Yitz and Nachman were with them in Acapulco. So who Mishalem Tashlum Kefil? So Mark has to pay A.B. Kefil because Mel and Shelley's testimony stand. The Hey Mishalem Tashlum Gimel, and Yitz and Nachman have to pay him the 3 because they were made Zayimim. Echad mina achroinim Zayimim. If Nachman's was proven to be in Acapulco, so Butlu Eid Shnia, so then there's only Yitz as 1 aid, Mark doesn't have to pay. Echad mina Rishaynim Zayimim. If Dr. Guy and Aaron said that Shelley was in Acapulco, so then their testimony falls. And once there's no testimony of theft, so the testimony that Mark slaughtered and sold it is meaningless, because if he didn't steal it, he did it with his own thing. But Lakolaidus, if Shelley is rendered false, then Butler Kalaidis, the whole thing falls apart, because Shemain Geneva, if there's no theft, then ain't Tvicha Mechira. You can't be Mechayiv Mark for slaughtering and selling it, because maybe he slaughtered and sold, that was his own. So that Mark is off the hook entirely. So now we have a legendary question. In the event that our professional witnesses, Mel and Shelley, give testimony that on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, Mark stole from Amy. And then Rosh Chodesh Adar Aleph, Aaron and Dr. Guy say that Shelley and Mel were with us in Acapulco. So they're Eidim Zayimim. At what point do they become Pasal Le'edus? So the logic would be that they become Pasal Le'edus retroactively from Rosh Chodesh Shvat, because that's when they testified falsely. They said that they saw it in Bela Kinwood, and now we have established that they were in Acapulco. So the Chayra they should become, and that means that if they gave any testimony in between Rosh Chodesh Shvat and Rosh Chodesh Adar, if they signed any shtaras, we have to disqualify their testimony. That's the pashut. But we're going to see one shita that says that they're only disqualified from Rosh Chodesh Adar, Mikano Laba. Now, even Shelley doesn't understand that. I mean, he says, well, I should be proven a crook retroactively. Right? I mean, so the Gemara floats a fascinating idea. Really, does it make sense that Dr. Guy and Aaron should be able to impugn the testimony of Mel and Shelley? Why are Dr. Guy and Aaron any better than Mel and Shelley? It's 2 against 2. The mechanics of Eidim Zayimim doesn't make sense. It's 2 against 2. It's a chiddush. Gemara says chiddushu, and chiddush ain't lechiddush only from the time we say it, and then therefore that would be a svara to say that Shelley and Mel are only disqualified from Rosh Chodesh Adar and not retroactively. Shelley's smiling; he has a wicked grin on his face. So let's see the Gemara inside. It's really very interesting. This is really a very interesting piece of Gemara. Imar, Eid Zayimim, a disgraced witness that was proven to be false. He's disqualified retroactively from the time that he gave the testimony, which was Rosh Chodesh Shvat. He's only disqualified for when Aaron and Dr. Guy come to court in Rosh Chodesh Adar. Abaye Amar Mafreo Nifsel. Why? Because it turns out that when Shelley and Mel said that Mark stole on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, they were lying. So at that time, they were declared false witnesses and Rishonim. Abaye Mafreo Nifsel. How shaita the acid from that time in Rosh Chodesh Shvat, when they testified falsely, Havalei Rasha. They became a Rasha. The Torah says, Al Toshes Rasha Aid. You can't make a Russian aid. That's why it's the minig of many Rabbanim that if they get called up to be Eidim at a chasana, first of all, some Rabbanim don't even want to be an aid. They get nervous. But if they get called up to be an aid, on the way, they say vidui. On Hashem, chotasi, avisi, pashati, l'fanecha, v'arini nechamti, yabayishti, b'maisi, u'layla, me'eni chayzel, the love is that. Why? Because if they're a Russia, they're apostle aiders. Right? So, Rava says no. Mikanu labo nifsel. They're only disqualified, not from Rosh Chodesh Shvat when they gave the testimony, only from Rosh Chodesh Adar when Aaron and Dr. Guy come to court and say they couldn't be there on Rosh Chodesh Shvat because on Rosh Chodesh Shvat they were with us on a cruise in Acapulco. Why? Because Eid Zaymim Chidishu. The fact that we believe Aaron and Dr. Guy more than Mel and Shelley is a big Chiddush. Trey or train in them. It's 2 against 2. My chazis tzayis lahani. Why do we listen to Aaron and Dr. Guy? Tzayis lahani. We should listen to Mel and Shelley. Hilkach ein loch bay ala mechshas chiddush ve'elach. We only have from the time of the chiddush and onward, and therefore they're not pasul l'mafreya. Very, very interesting thing, by the way. This is a very good question about the whole mechanics of Eidim Zaymimin, why we believe Aaron and Dr. Guy better than Mel and Shelley. We're going to learn the Mishnah.
In other words, the Torah says that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to do the Mishnah Yomis now, Rabbi Isai.